Hello, readers. I'm Emily.
And I'm Candace.
And you're listening to Pride and Prose, your go-to podcast for everything queer and bookish.
If you're tired of the same old book recommendations and want a bit of color in your libraries,
then listen to us every week as we break down our favorite tropes, the best and worst of our latest reads, and the unfiltered opinions that no one asks for. So, I still remember the day I bought Angels Before Men, and it was on one of our many trips to New York City.
Oh, our many trips to New York City.
A few months after our last trip in February, despite the terrible financial decisions that we made on that trip, I went looking for a book, and I wasn't looking for Angels Before Men. That wasn't a book that was on my radar. I wasn't like, oh, I heard about this book.
I think we were mostly just looking for something new, something to like fix our brain from our last read.
Exactly. So again, I knew that I wanted a queer romance. I wanted something better than what I got last time. So I'm looking around the area where they have all the queer romance releases, and I'm seeing so many things. I'm seeing like a gay biography, and then like a gay hockey romance. And then I keep looking, and I'm looking at myths and retellings. And then right in the middle, I see this beautiful cover, and it's Angels Before Men, and I turn it around, and I'm like, you're right next to me.
I think we both kind of paused what we were doing, because I think I was looking at something else.
Yes.
And then I heard you, and then like we both just like kind of processed what the hell you were just reading.
So Angels Before Men, and it was going to be the queer retelling of Satan's Fall. Now, I would not say that I'm not religious. I just wouldn't say that I am the
You're open-minded.
I'm open-minded. And I also would say that I would go to church. I just don't go to church.
Yeah.
So it's a very complicated relationship that I have with God.
Yeah.
That I just sometimes I won't go to church, and I think that's more of I'm a lazy person type of thing, and I'm just easily bored if I go.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that I don't believe in like a higher power. I don't believe in other people's beliefs. Like I'm never going to be I don't.
Yeah. No, I think you're just more spiritual than anything. Me personally, I'm also spiritual, but I'm also I like learning about new religion. Or like other religions. That's like one of my special interests. And I think it's because I'm like a history nerd. Mm-hmm. I love learning about history. So I think with this book, however, I really was questioning myself, because as someone who grew up heavily religious, like I would go to church every Sunday. I was in Catholic school. I was in catechism. I had my first communion. I didn't have my confirmation, but that's when I started falling out of the belief.
Yeah.
And I think this book, I texted you. I was like, I don't know if I should really be feeling these things. Like I was telling you, like I shouldn't be sympathizing with Lucifer because he's, Satan. I shouldn't be liking him.
Right, like your inner religious guilt was kind of just talking to you like, hey, maybe this is kind of weird. And I agree with you, because sometimes when I was reading this book, I felt like I had to look behind my shoulder. Like I felt like somebody was watching me trying to read this book. It's like, hey, should you be reading this? I was like, you know what? I'm going to read it either way.
I had to tell myself hey, this is fiction. It's not real. So I had to really separate it from my actual Bible religious beliefs and this book, which now actually I kind of believe this book is my own religion. I'm claiming it.
And you know what? That works, because where else are you going to read a retelling of Satan's Fall and just like the overall?
Because this book how pretty and how whimsical it sounds. It would actually sound like it's part of the Bible. That is just what's cut out.
I feel like that was his whole point, to be honest.
Good for you.
So, let's recap the book. Oh my God, finally. My favorite part of every type of conversation, recapping the book. So obviously, it's the retelling of Satan's Fall. But we're not going to start from Satan's Fall exactly. We're going to start
we have to lead up
We have to go to the very beginning.
The birth of Lucifer.
And we kind of get that in the preface, like the prologue. We get like a very descriptive opening where it talks about God and how he's creating Lucifer and how he has the other angels watching him as he's creating him. And they make it clear in this book that Lucifer is God's favorite, and he made him that way. He made him so beautiful that all the other angels are like, oh, he's the angel of beauty. Like he's so gorgeous. Like, I've never seen an angel this beautiful.
It was kind of, the way how they were like very persistent about how pretty he was, it was kind of scary. Mm-hmm. Because again, we're reading this book in the eyes of Lucifer. And Lucifer at this point was just born. So he's basically the equivalent of a newborn baby. Mm-hmm. everyone kind of telling you you're beautiful and like you're the angel of beauty and like kind of being really in your face about your outwards appearance is very uncomfortable. And that's kind of the feeling I had while reading.
And then, I mean, like, when we meet Lucifer, and, like, that's our main character that we're going to be focusing on, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything about heaven. He doesn't know about angels. He doesn't know any
even know
information.
How he looks like.
He doesn't know what he looks like, because we get the whole scene of when he, like, is walking by the mirror and he sees this beautiful angel in it. And he's like...
He kind of gets startled,
He gets startled. He's like, oh, my God, it's like, this angel's so beautiful. Like, I've never seen... And then they had to tell him, like, that's your reflection. That's a mirror. That's you. And then they get shy. And then they're like...
Yeah, he kind of covers himself.
He covers himself. He's like, no, that can't be me. He doesn't believe that it's him.
He's such a cutie.
He's like, that can't be me. Like, that doesn't feel like me. Like, he doesn't feel like he's in his own skin. He's just very much, he's like, no, that can't be me. I don't want to believe that's me. He doesn't want to accept that he's like the angel of beauty.
He just doesn't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
With that. Like, he feels like I shouldn't just be the angel of beauty. He was also very curious. Earlier on, he meets an angel named Baal, who is the angel of flight. And like Baal teaches him how to spread his wings out and teaches him how to fly. Yeah. And it's painful. And because Lucifer is like just born, he's never experienced pain before. So he's very confused, but also curious about it, to the point where like he looks at like the bloody petals in the Fountain of Youth, where he like cleaned himself up, and he takes the roses, like the bloody petals, back home with him. And it's like, it kind of kickstarts like his weird infatuation toward blood and like pain and gore and stuff like that.
Right. And then like kind of to just piggyback off the thing that you said before about him not wanting being the angel of beauty to be the only thing that he is, he does find like later on after he meets all these other angels, he meets Rosier, but I will call him Rose for this.
I'll say Rosier.
He meets Asmodeus. He meets all these other angels and he hears about their jobs. Like Asmodeus was the god of friendship, and then we had Rose, the god of fruits.
Yeah.
And like he was like, oh my God, all of these angels have such amazing jobs. What's my job? Because again, at that point, he wasn't calling himself the angel of beauty. That was what everyone else was calling him.
More like he just didn't, like, what is he supposed to do as being an angel of beauty? Like everyone else has a role to play, but what is he supposed to do?
Exactly. And that plays into his whole thing of him being curious in the beginning, because he wanted to know what his role was. He was born, and like he wants to know what his purpose is, like what he wants to do. And so when he heard people being like, oh, you're the angel of beauty, he was like, no, that doesn't fit. Like that, I don't want that to be me. I want to be I want something else.
He wanted a purpose.
He wanted a purpose. He like, what does the angel of beauty do? And I mean, like, honestly, yeah, what does the angel of beauty do?
Sit there, look pretty.
Exactly. So he's like, that's not something that I want. I want something else. And he still stays curious because he's slowly asking everyone these questions like, oh, how does this happen? How does this work? How did creation come? And they all answer the same thing. God created us. God did this. God had made the decisions. Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, I want to meet God.
Yeah, he's like, who is God?
Like, I want to meet our Father, the one who created me. I want to ask him these questions. And they're like, well, we don't know when you get to meet him. He usually never like calls us over. Sometimes he does, but that's like very rarely. And he's like, well, I don't know. Like, I want to meet him. He finally gets to meet him. And God is exactly how you would think he is. He is a blinding light. You can't even understand his existence, because when you're reading it, he just is like this overbearing presence that when Lucifer first meets him, he can't even look him in the eye. He immediately has to like bow down to him. He's looking on the ground because he can't look God in the face.
One line from the passage that really stuck out to me about like God's appearance was his rings, like his jewelry, his rings. When Lucifer went to go kiss his hand, I'm pretty sure. It was described that he had like universes or like galaxies in his rings.
Again, this is another example of just great description of just like you could feel what Lucifer feels of like having to look at God, and you can understand how overbearing it must have been to just try to look greatness in the face, basically. Yeah. We wanted to mention this thing about gender, and they do that, and they talk more about this in book 2, but we can mention it here. Is that everybody, they don't have genders. They're all angels, right? Yeah. But they call each other brother. Like when they're talking to each other, when they're trying to call out to their friends, is that they call each other brother. And we all know that for us, brother has the connotation of male,
Most of them also have like the body of a man. How they are very pretty. Like a little like thing from book 2 is that when they're described as being as pretty as a woman, which they don't understand that because, you know, they're angels, they're not humans.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have a concept of gender. But yeah, physically they look like a man.
I always wondered if the reason why they look like men was because, like, God supposedly is always being, it's like said as to be a man, and everybody's made in God's image. And if God is supposed to be a man, maybe all the angels are supposed to look like men because they're supposed to be in God's image. I always wondered if that was the reason for this, but you know what? It could just be.
It could have just been like easier.
It could, yeah. Also because like there's a lot of conversation of queerness in this, so it could have been that as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could just be yapping. We get Lucifer's birth. We get the introduction to all the other angels. We meet Rose. We meet Asmodeus.
And then we meet Michael.
Oh, Michael. Michael is so interesting.
I actually adore how Michael was introduced because it kind of goes back to like what I said about Lucifer being very interested in not normal things, like how he was interested in his own blood.
Yes. How
he meets Michael, and I think I recently realized this, is that Michael's in a fight.
Yes.
There's like a tournament. So he's covered in blood, sweat, very muscular, and Lucifer just finds this amazing.
He's infatuated.
Yeah, very infatuated.
He's like even before he even saw Michael, because he knew about Michael, because like that's why he went there. He went to the games because they mentioned that Michael was going to be there. He wanted to see them. It was the moment that they said his name, and he says that like he loves the name Michael. It just like
rolls off
the tongue. He was just infatuated. And from then on, he's just like kind of been curious about who this Michael is. He's like, they're like, oh, he's the prince, the angel of strength. And he's just like, I want to meet this guy. So he gets the opportunity. He goes to the fight. He sees Michael, and Michael is covered in blood. He's literally just defeated another angel. And Lucifer is just enamored with him. He's just like, oh, he's powerful. Like, I want to get to know this person. That's when they first get the glimpse of their first glances with each other, because he sees Michael, and Michael, so he makes a wave and he tries to say something, but Lucifer never catches it.
Right.
And then he tries to go to Fanuel, who is Michael's best friend.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, what happened to Michael? Like, I want to talk to Michael. And he's like, oh, well, God just sent him on a mission and he won't be back for a while.
You know what? And this is mentioned later on in the story, but God can listen to their thoughts. Like he knows what all the angels are thinking. So I'm pretty sure he did that on purpose because he knew what Lucifer was thinking.
Right.
He knew that Lucifer was like weirdly too much into Michael. He even warned Lucifer. Like we have he's talking about like the bird, the two birds getting stuck.
The dove.
Yeah, the two doves getting stuck in the mud, playing in the mud, and they're no longer pure. I think I have it right here. Here.
The dove said, Father would fly into the mud one day with another bird, which had deceived to think like him, and they became dirty together. Amid searching for other gardens beneath the mud, they found so much pleasure in rebelling that they couldn't see how their feathers had grown filthy, nor realize that they would never dry. And they dug, but there was no other garden, there was no other paradise, and the doves would never be pure again. And you know what? That whole line itself, first of all, obviously it was kind of just foreshadowing what was going to happen later, but also like that one part where Lucifer, his feet are dirty. And they kept telling like, Lucifer, we should clean your feet. And it just reminded me of that line of like, oh, they did this because Lucifer is the dove and he's been rebelling and his feet had gotten dirty just like the dove.
Yep.
But that whole conversation happens after Michael and Lucifer officially meet, because after Michael, of course, Lucifer was told that Michael was sent away. Michael comes back and he searches for Lucifer, which a lot of what happened I had to blame it on you. I'm not.
Because it really did. And my thing is that like, he wants to act like it was all Lucifer's fault.
Like, no, it was not. Like, you were the one that searched for him first. He was flirting with Lucifer really hard because he was just like, oh, like, I asked all the angels that I could find. I was trying to find you. Like, I wanted to see you. I wanted to talk to you because I immediately, when I heard you singing, because he had finally met Lucifer after Lucifer had realized what he wanted to be. He wasn't the angel of beauty. He was the angel of song.
Angel of worship.
Yeah, angel of worship and song, because he found himself after seeing God and then having conversations with God and being like, oh, well, God really loves when I worship to him.
He wanted to, like, he was so enamored by God. He wanted to sing his praise.
And so he would go and he would sing into the streets of heaven. And all the angels were like, oh, your voice is so beautiful. And they would follow whatever he said because he was just really good. And Michael sees that happening. And so when he finally meets Lucifer, he tells him that he's like, oh, you're so like amazing at worship. Like I'm jealous of you.
Can we just take a moment to like appreciate how they didn't meet right off the bat?
Yes. They didn't meet, like, they wait a long time for us to get introduced to Michael. Like, I think maybe he was like chapter 10 before we even get to Michael. But I think that worked for them.
Like, he had a bit time to, like, experience something. And I kind of like that because in other romances, you kind of, like, meet the love interest right away without really getting to know the main character.
Right. So Michael, when he is first meeting with Lucifer, he tells him, he's like, I want to be able to worship. Whenever I worship God, I'm awkward. I'm unable to do the things that you do. I want to be like you. So you should teach me. And of course, Lucifer's like, oh, this guy that I'm really interested in, the one that I think is so, like, I don't know, like...
He's into me?
Like, he's into me. He really likes my singing. That's amazing. So he's like, okay, sure, I will teach you as long as you teach me how to be strong like you. So they make an agreement. And now every day they hang out with each other. They're always in each other's, like, vicinity. And it's...
To the point where it's like all the other angels are noticing that they're like a package deal. Like, you would not see Lucifer or Michael ever alone.
Exactly.
They're always together.
Exactly. And in the beginning, it's innocent. It's very like...
It's cute.
They're like, oh, it's like very first love. Very like, oh, we're really close friends. We're best friends. So at first, you don't really notice it. A lot of the angels don't notice it either. They're like, oh, look at them. They're here again. They're together.
It's like, oh, Michael and Lucifer again. Look at them. Silly gooses.
And then again, later on, when we start to get more deeper into the book, we start to see Lucifer and Michael's relationship get more obsessive and get more codependent, especially more codependent on Lucifer's side. Not to say that Michael doesn't care for Lucifer. He loves Lucifer at this point. If anything, he kind of just feeds into Lucifer's codependency. He indulges him a lot. So like if Lucifer says like, I want to sleep in your bed, he will let him sleep in your bed. They will literally cuddle up together. If Lucifer as brothers, because obviously angels can't love. That's a whole big thing. Angels cannot love.
Also during this time where Lucifer, I feel like God also really was the one who to like kickstart Lucifer's obsession, because he noticed that Lucifer was starting to get a bit too... Him and Michael were starting to get a bit too close to each other. So he would send Michael away on long trips to where it will be like years until Lucifer sees him again. And obviously time works differently still. So I think because Michael or Lucifer wasn't seeing Michael as often, or like, you know how they say like time apart strengthens a relationship?
Like it makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
Like time makes the heart grow fonder. I mean, yeah, but then I also feel like if you look at it in the perspective of like a parent that's forbidding a child for doing something and the child does it anyway.
It's like he's rebelling.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to hang out with these specific friends. And then you're like, well, I don't care what you say. I'm going to still do it because I don't care. And that's how that's Lucifer's attitude.
It really is.
His whole attitude has always been like when God would be like, don't do those certain things. With Michael, he's just like, I don't care. I'm going to still do it.
It's honestly really funny because like you like read his thoughts while reading the book. And it's like God will say one thing, but in Lucifer's head, he's like, well, I'm gonna do it anyway, or like, I don't really want to listen to you.
The wheels start turning for like the plot of like, in the beginning, it's very much like Lucifer loves God. Lucifer wants to worship God. Lucifer wants to do everything for God.
But
then of course,
it gets to like, why doesn't God want me to be with Michael?
We start to see why, because slowly he starts to make comments like, I want to worship Michael. I want Michael to be my religion. Michael is everything to me. Like nothing else mattered anymore. Michael was the only thing he cared about.
And I'm going to say this right now. I don't think it's love. I think it's infatuation. Like, obviously, Lucifer does love Michael, but at this point is no longer love. Is infatuation. It's obsession. It's, again, as you said, codependency. Like, I feel like Lucifer cannot be himself without Michael. And we don't know if it's like the same way with Michael because we don't really see his thought process until, obviously the second book, but we don't really know what he's thinking.
I mean, we do kind of get like a sneak peek at the end, and that's mostly after Lucifer had already gone down.
After
everything, because it gets worse. Like that's after the whole situation with God and him arguing with him and him getting in trouble for the things that he's done. God punishes Lucifer by sexually assaulting him.
Yeah.
And it causes him to like lose his voice for like a long time. And when he finally gets his voice back, he's already had a...
He's pissed.
He's pissed. He's angry. He has a tarnished idea of God in his mind because God did this to him. And he's like conflicting with himself because he's like, God was somebody that I put on a pedestal.
It kind of reminds me of when like someone you trust does something horrible to you, like for example sexual assault, or even just like betrays your trust like that, and it's just like, well, you were someone that I looked up to, someone I trusted, and you do this to me after so much I've done for you.
Exactly. He's betrayed. He's angry. He wants revenge. And in his mind, he believes that the only way that he can get revenge is if he gets rid of God. And he thinks that he'll get the things that he wants if God is no longer alive. And then he could just make his own rules. And him and Michael can finally be together without the whole thing of God nagging him, being like, oh, you can't worship anyone that's not me. And that just becomes a thing that is in his head, and it just stays in there. And through the entire ending, you're kind of seeing him find reasons to back up why he should continue with this way of thinking. Because again, God punishes him again for a thing that he did, but then he slowly starts rebelling. He's like coming up with these new words. He's coming up with hatred. He's coming up with things that... Sexual things. Like he calls it sin.
Yeah.
I do want to make a mention to... to Earth, basically, because we don't mention it, but he's obsessed with the idea of Earth because he finds out that Michael goes to Earth.
This can also be like how you were saying, like Michael indulges Lucifer because he brings him down to Earth, and he's like begs God to allow him to escort Lucifer down to Earth for like, I don't know. I just feel like that's a part of him like indulging Lucifer.
Again, he indulges Lucifer a lot, and that causes a problem near the end and he really believes that Lucifer would do no wrong because when they're talking, not when they're talking, but Uriel, who's in one of the other Archangel's princes, right? He's like the first one. So he was there when God had first created heaven, and he kind of saw what God did to the first angels, and he left him alive. So he worships God, but not in the same way as everyone else does.
He kind of reminds me of Lucifer, mostly because like they've both been tarnished by God. They both also had some type of love with another angel, and that was ripped away from them by God. And however, the difference with the two of them is that Uriel only had God left at that point.
Yeah.
Lucifer had a whole bunch of other angels.
I think it really is just they had two separate responses to God, where it's like Uriel realized that he was a person he needed to be feared, while Lucifer is just very much like, oh no, I need to take this man down. But yeah, Uriel tells Michael, he's like, Lucifer is out of control. He's doing things that he's not supposed to, and you're indulging him. You're letting this happen. And Michael's like, no, I don't believe that.
Not my Lucifer.
He's like, no, I don't believe that. You're just saying that because you don't like him, and I get it. You don't like him. You don't like how we are. You don't like how we are as angels. You don't like the way that we do things, and I get that. But you need to like stop saying that he's doing something wrong because you just don't like who he is as a person.
Don't you just love it when your man defends you?
And I mean, I can understand why he would think that, though, because Uriel throughout the entire book has never shown Lucifer any type of like, like, I like you as a person. He's always been very mean to him.
Such a hater.
Exactly. He's always been like a person that disliked him. And Lucifer had caught that. He was just like, bro, I try to be nice to this man. He doesn't care. Like, he's like, he treats me like nothing.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be surprised that Michael would think the same thing because like he's seen him act this way. So he's like, no, I don't believe you. You're just saying that because you don't like him. And of course, Michael ends up finding out that no, he's right, that something's wrong with Lucifer. And this is because they see each other again, right? And Lucifer tries to sleep with Michael. And it gets into obviously Michael is doesn't know what to do. He's freaking out because he doesn't know what to do because he likes the sensation that's going on, but he knows that it's wrong.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't do this. Like his morality of just like, no, I know that I'm not supposed to be doing this kind of beats out the whole thing of like, oh, I actually really want to be with Lucifer. So he's just like, no, I can't be with you. You need to leave. I can't see you right now.
I think also at this point, like Lucifer was basically calling himself like Michael's wife. Mm-hmm. He wanted to like throw parties for Michael. He wanted to like hang on his arm, like very trophy wife behavior. And, you know, Michael really indulged this. So I think when Lucifer was starting to talk crazy, and he was talking crazy.
Oh no, he was talking really crazy.
And by the end of the book, he was basically like, you know, he was talking crazy, and he was like, let's do all these things together and let's call it sin. And he's like, that's a new word I created. I can create like God. Michael's like, what is going on? What are you talking about?
You can't create like God. Like God creates. You can't. And he's like, no, I can create too.
We's like, I can. And I just did.
And then he starts talking crazy. He's like, oh no. And then we're going to kill God. We're going to wage war on heaven. And then you and me will be we'll be the leaders and we'll be the new God.
Yep.
And then Michael's immediately like, no, I can't do that. This is insane. This is crazy talk. So he tells Lucifer to leave. And Lucifer obviously is like, oh no, it's fine. He doesn't initially believe that Michael is not going to follow him. He's in denial. So he's like, you know what? It's fine. I'm going to start the rebellion. I'm going to get all of these angels to rally with me. And we're going to start the war, and Michael will see that we actually have a chance to beat God, and he'll join me.
So he's basically like, I'll meet you there.
I'll meet you there, basically. And so he goes, and then he does this with Baal, and Baal is such an interesting character.
As we were talking about before, Baal is the angel of flight.
Yes.
That he not the first person, but like one of Lucifer's first friends.
Exactly.
Outside of his house.
Mm-hmm. When we meet Baal is, and he acts similar as Lucifer did with when he first met Michael, because he sees Lucifer, he's like, oh, he's beautiful. Like everyone else, like when they first meet Lucifer, oh, he's beautiful. And of course, he teaches Lucifer how to fly. They used to have like flying lessons together. But of course, after Lucifer met Michael, they no longer did their flying lessons as they used to. Yeah, and Baal would make comments about this like, all the time.
Like, you're canceling on me again to go see Michael again?
You're still hanging out with Michael again?
Oh, you're with Michael again? And that's where I realized, like, oh, Baal's in love with Lucifer.
Yes, Baal wanted to be with Lucifer. So like you can imagine he's literally jealous throughout this entire book, because like
it's kind of funny.
It is funny. It's funny because these are angels that don't know the concept of like jealousy. Romance or jealousy. Like they don't know this. He just knows that he does not like the fact that Lucifer hangs out with Michael, and he wants to have Lucifer all to himself. And Lucifer kind of caught that, because that's what happened in the next scene. Mm-hmm. And like during the whole takeover of heaven, he introduces to the angels lust and sin, but basically lust and just...
They have, can I say this?
You could try.
They have one big orgy. Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
They have a whole orgy, and he starts this by introducing Baal into it first. And of course,
in front of everyone.
But of course, with Baal being really interested in Lucifer, he didn't know what was going on, obviously. Because again, this is something really new. But it only would have worked if he did it with Baal. Yeah. Because of how Baal felt about Lucifer. So that's kind of what I mean more of. Just like he knew that it would work with him because Baal has feelings for Lucifer. Lucifer is so ready to fight against God. He has all these angels that he rallied with him. He
kind of starts a riot.
He starts a riot. There's chaos in heaven. Everything's happening too fast. All these other angels are committing sins. And then God has finally left heaven, because everyone's just like, where is God? Why isn't he stopping this? He left them.
I also feel bad for Gabriel in this part. We don't talk about Gabriel.
We don't talk about Gabriel a lot, actually.
But mostly because he doesn't really have a role to play. And that's kind of sad, because
him and Rafael don't really have much of a role other than to be kind of like the middle spectrum.
Yeah. Kind of like
Michael and Uriel. Uriel would be the very much against Lucifer, and then Michael would be the very much, not that he was against Lucifer, but very much like he was indulging Lucifer and his antics way too often. And Gabriel and Rafael were very much like like, oh, Lucifer's just a child. He's just a young angel. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Then when they see the whole situation going on, they try to convince Michael, and Michael's still kind of, I don't really want to believe you. But obviously in the end, we get to the height, the climax of the ending. Lucifer is getting ready to fight against God. He gets there and he sees Michael, and Michael kills Lucifer.
He cuts his wings off.
That's
actually, I think that's also very traumatic, because like it's kind of the same way with like Lucifer's thing with God, like during that part. It's kind of the same way, because like Michael took something from him. Like you could say like it's not so really sexual assault, but he took his trust, his heart, and his wings. And he can no longer fly.
So God basically gave them the chance, and we know this because of the second book. He was telling them like, oh, if you repent, I will forgive you. Of course, we find out in the second book that's really not helping them.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about the second book.
But basically, they're like, no, we don't want to follow you anymore. You are a corrupted God. We don't want to be under you. So we want Lucifer. We want Lucifer. We follow Lucifer. They all fall on purpose to go be with Lucifer. And we kind of get more of context of what happens after Lucifer falls, but we get like a more summed up version at the end, where Lucifer, he's broken apart into all these little different type of pieces, right? And the monsters and the demons, they come and they put Lucifer back together.
I think that's actually really cute. Like that's kind of adorable. How they were able to like come together and like put Lucifer as someone as now that's their king, and like rebuild him. I think there's something very precious about that it's really different from how it is with God, because obviously God created the angels,
right?
But now the angels, or now demons, created Lucifer.
And that's what happened to a lot of the demons. The demons had to recreate their bodies to make them look the way that they do, and it's because once they got to Earth, they were all completely destroyed.
I think one of my favorite parts from like the epilogue in the first book is that I think it's Gabriel and someone else looking down on Earth and watching Baal kill one of the monsters. And the monsters are basically like the dinosaurs. Basically like kill one of the dinosaurs and take its wings and puts it on himself. And I think like it's kind of like what you were saying, that they were like putting themselves back together. That's basically the entire book.
That's basically the entire, it's basically the entire book.
I don't think it took us that long to explain it.
Yeah, not really.
No.
Thoughts and opinions?
What was your favorite moment in the book?
Oh my God, what was my favorite moment?
Yeah.
When Michael and Lucifer...
Well, I'm sorry. Your favorite moment and your least favorite moment.
My least favorite, okay. When Michael and Lucifer, this is my favorite moment, they were standing in front of the mirror, and Michael was basically telling Lucifer that...
I think this is what also kickstarted Michael's obsession with... Oh, no. Lucifer's obsession with Michael and wanting to worship him.
Yes. Basically, it was a scene where Lucifer, again, the entire beginning of the book, he does not like looking at himself.
He's ashamed of himself.
Yes. He doesn't like looking at himself in the reflection. He hates that. So when he meets Michael doesn't really understand why.
Michael's like, you're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful. And he's like, I'll be the one to tell you that you're beautiful. Like they're looking in the mirror. He's like, I want you to look in the mirror, and I will be the one to tell you that you're beautiful and stuff like that. Like he kind of gets Lucifer to he convinces him to like see that he has such like this beauty and stuff like that. But that was one of my favorite scenes, and I think one of my least favorite scenes. Oh my God, can I be honest?
Sure.
I didn't care for a lot of the time that they went to
Eden,
not to Eden, but they went to Earth. I really didn't care a lot for it. I mean, I like some of the scenes of it where it's like Michael saves Lucifer.
Yeah, it kind of just felt like I understand why it's there.
Yeah, but
it kind of just felt like they were just there to add a word count, like to just like meet the word count.
And I don't want to say that's true, because I feel like it's important that they actually get to go to Earth.
It's definitely important that Earth is mentioned and that they're in Earth. But it just, I don't know. It just, I can't really
care for it. I just didn't care for it. And I guess you can blame this on me being really into just the romance aspect of it. Because like again, one of my other favorite scenes is Lucifer thinking in his head that he wants to worship Michael. Honestly, any scene with Michael and Lucifer is my favorite. Just probably not the ending. Yeah, probably not the ending.
The ending was kind of sad.
The ending kind of made me upset.
My favorite scene, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, my favorite scene is when Lucifer was talking crazy to Michael.
Yes.
That, because it's the moment where Michael is like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like what everyone was telling me is true. You're insane.
The what the fuck moment, basically.
Yeah, the what the fuck moment. That's my favorite scene, because I just love the raw emotion Michael has when he realizes that like what everyone has been telling him like telling him to like back away from Lucifer, like he's getting too attached, that they were all right. And Lucifer is like off the deep end. Like he's been spiraling and he's finally reached, the no return. And I love how from the beginning he was like this innocent angel, like this, and now he's insane, and he's like saying like, let's make sin, let's I want to do this and this to you.
No, because he says a lot.
He says like, a lot
of crazy stuff. Oh my God, I can't even repeat the things that he said, because it's just a lot.
No, because I remember reading this book and like reading that part, my jaw dropped with everything he was saying. Like every other like sentence he was saying, I was like, what is he saying? Like, this is insane.
When you say jaw drop, I was just thinking about that TikTok sound. Like, the porn on your fucking computer made my jaw drop
from Euphoria.
But that's basically what it is. No, because like the words that you said in that moment made my jaw drop.
That was Michael's reaction.
That was like, it was crazy. No, that's a good scene. Yeah,
my least favorite scene has to be, I think, with Rosier and Asmodeus, because as I mentioned before, Rosier and Asmodeus, their relationship is very dear to me. They're like second to Michael and Lucifer, because they're obviously the second pairing.
Yeah.
So I really adore them, but in that scene, it kind of made me not want to like them, because it seems like Asmodeus was trying to force himself onto Rosier, and Rosier, obviously, he's confused. He doesn't know what's going on, so he decapitates Asmodeus. And it's kind of like, so it made me very icky. So I didn't want to like them. I was like, I don't want to ship them no more. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want them to be together because, like, this happened. And then you tell me about book 2, and I'm like, okay. They're so cute.
Their relationship is really complicated.
It's complicated.
It's similar to Lucifer and Michael. Their relationship is
not as bad.
Not as bad. I mean,
it's bad. But at least they're both on the same page. So when he's kind of cradling, like, Asmodeus' head, because Asmodeus is still alive.
Yeah.
And so he's looking for Lucifer, and he's, kind of out of body, kind of dissociative at this point. And Lucifer's like, he tells Lucifer what happens, and Lucifer's like, I'm gonna fucking kill Asmodeus, because even Lucifer was like, what is wrong with him? So I love Lucifer and Rosier's relationship. I think they're such great friends.
I mean, like, overall, I really like this book. I think that, would I recommend this book? Well, first, yes, I would.
I would recommend this to someone who's not fully religious, or someone who's open-minded with religion.
I mean, yeah. I like, if you're like super, super religious.
Like, heavily religious. Like, I would not recommend this to, obviously, my mother. I would not recommend this to maybe my sister. Some of my coworkers, I won't recommend it to them.
Like, this is not to say that it's not bad. It's
not bad.
Like
it's just,
you wouldn't understand it in the same way. It's
kind of like Saltburn. Like, people who watch Saltburn are very divided. Like, you either really like Saltburn or you hated Saltburn.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how we felt about Saltburn. I felt like it was kind of tame. I felt it was kind of...
It was tame. I really liked...
I liked it.
As a movie, I really liked it.
Yeah.
And as a story, I really liked it. I just feel like people's reaction to it was, like...
overdramatic.
Yeah.
Like, was it gross? Yeah. It's kind of gross. But, like, it was kind of overdramatic.
We've seen worse. And this book is worse.
Now, hold on now. I mean, I wouldn't say it was worse.
Oh, that's because of you. That's you.
Well, then again, that's because of me. I read outlandish stuff. Anyway, But yeah, no, I would recommend it to most people that don't have a hard time reading it.
Yeah.
Because again, it's pretty hard to read.
People who have great media literacy.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if you don't have really good media literacy, this stuff will literally fly over your head.
That, or you will just get very frustrated.
Very frustrated, very confused. And then a lot of comments that I don't need to be hearing about, like certain characters, like, why are we sympathizing with Lucifer? He's like the devil. He's like a demon. And I'm like, dude, wait, what?
That's me.
That's not the point of the book.
That was literally me, but then I was calling him baby girl. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I should not be saying this. I'm going to hell.
No, not really. It's a fictional book.
It is a fictional book.
Based off of biblical characters, but it's a fictional book.
It is.
And I liked it.
It is my religion now.
Same.
Yeah.
Once again, everyone, I want to thank you for listening to Pride and Prose, your go-to podcast for all things queer and bookish. If you want to know more or find out when we're releasing our next episode, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at pride_prose, as well as subscribe to our newsletter. Until then, join us next week as we plan to talk about the second book in the Angel series, Angels and Man.